Hey, welcome to Gold Scratch, and we're back at Daryl Waters Dyno Service in Springfield, Ontario, and we've done 3 or 4 videos about Will Casey's L81 350 Corvette engine already, and leading up to, so this is the moment of truth. We're on the dyno. We've made 3 pulls so far. But we're going to do this a little different. We have Will with us today, and he drove all the way here from Green Bay and Wisconsin in the USA. And the last time we did the video was at home. We also did that, but we lost some footage and didn't get him in there very much. So, Will, I'd like to, first of all, introduce you and thank you for the business, coming all this way. We've got Daryl Waters, of course, our Canadian Steve Brule with us. And he's going to give us some information too, as usual. And before we go further, please like and subscribe. Our channel's growing nicely. We know we can do more. We're working hard to make our videos better. Apologize for some of the audio and recent videos. We just bought some brand new audio equipment for this one, and so hopefully the outcome is going to be better. So we're going to start off at base 1. We have made 3 pulls. We've got more to do. We haven't really made any changes other than one timing change. Let's start off well how Will got here, and Will, give us the background of your thinking and the process. Will is restoring a 1981, original 1981 Corvette, and this is the engine that's going in. And so I'm going to turn it over to you and tell us what's going on your end.
Okay, thanks, Alan. So yeah, the car is a 1981 Corvette. Why? Well, I grew up with my dad owning a 1967 427 4-speed, and so it was a Sunday driver car. We go out and get ice cream and that sort of thing, but he didn't put too many miles on it. So, but it was the most radical thing, convertible, just a beautiful car, right? So growing up, I've always been interested in cars. We watched NASCAR together, all that sort of stuff. And since I can remember, the C3 Corvette for me was one of the most beautiful cars ever designed. So that was kind of the dream car, has always been that way. I didn't have posters of Ferraris. I had posters of C3 Corvettes. So as I gotten older in life and I could afford one, that was the plan. So the wife okayed the restoration plan and found a real nice original, almost zero rust, 81 4-speed, pretty near to where we live actually, and went and test drove it. The bushings were shot, the whole rear end was nice and squidgy, so we knew we'd have to do some work, but that's what I was wanting to do. Now, I will say it's gone to the point where it's a frame-off restoration. That was not planned, but
usually what happens.
But it's that's what's happened, and I'm really happy about it. Though it's great. As I started looking into engines, though, I'm not an engine builder. That's beyond my skill set, and so I started talking to a lot of engine builders. And one of the things that pretty quickly started frustrating me is that everyone seemed to kind of have the same catalog answer of, oh, I'm looking to do an engine. Oh, okay, put an LS in it. It's just going to be a street car. Oh, well, you at least have to have a 4-bolt main. What's wrong with this block? Oh, it's a piece of junk. It's an L81. That's the worst engine ever. And so that almost became the interviewing factor as I started talking to folks, is that I wanted to try to find someone that was more practical and pragmatic and actually experienced enough to be able to say, you can do this, and generate this much horsepower that'll be super reliable and enjoyable to drive. What we've ended up with is a little bit more higher performance than where we started, but I believe that every step that has been taken, was justified in the way that we approached it. So super happy, very excited, and can't wait for the day and see where we end up.
Okay, let's talk about what we did. So there was a previous video a couple months ago. Will brought this to me, and it was right out of his Corvette. It still had the clutch and the flywheel and the water pump and all that stuff on it, just the way it came out, carburetor, distributor, all that stuff. So we stripped it down. It was pretty grungy, but when I got it apart, it was actually in very good shape. Inside, considering the life that it already had. It had never been apart. This is a 350. It's not a 355. So in the process, this engine has never been to a machine shop. All the cleaning and block preparation, I hand honed this, and I have a process which people have asked me to show that. I will do that in a future video. And we got pretty good results. I've done a leak down and compression test on this engine already with really good results. The leak down numbers are just a little over 10% average, and the compression is about 175 PSI average. So all that worked out pretty good. And so we did end up, we wanted to get some more compression. The original pistons, of course, were this engine probably had 8.5 to 1 compression. That's one of the reasons why the original engine didn't make much power. So we actually bought a set of pistons, and then wanted to get the quench a little better. We bought another set of pistons. These are now flat tops with 2 valve reliefs, new pistons. So we also bought new rods. They're full floating rods, so we didn't have to engage anybody to help us put them together. They got the C-clip style. I cleaned up the crankshaft and mic'd it, and it was right on spec. There's no reason to grind it or do anything to it other than clean it. The bearings are all standard. Rod and main bearings are all standard in it. But the 3 ways you make more power, of course, you need more compression, you need more camshaft, and you need more cylinder heads. So the cylinder heads are a story by themselves. They're still hot, so they're a story by themselves. Probably a little bit overkill. These cylinder, you could make probably 500 horsepower with these cylinder heads. They're fast burn, Chevrolet fast burn cylinder heads. They're very expensive, but I had a couple in stock. I've mentioned it before. They're not sister and brother, they're cousins. They came off different engines, but I fully checked them out. I give well a complete documented spec sheet on them. They got beehive valve springs, which is really nice. And so the cylinder heads have the D-shaped ports, the raised runners, and the fast burn combustion chambers. So that's a nice improvement. And then the camshaft that we use, we increased the compression ratio, as I mentioned already, with these pistons to just under 10.5 to 1. But the dynamic compression, what I always aim for is getting the right compression pressure. And my rule of thumb is somewhere between 160, 180, closer to 180. So the theoretical compression was 178, and there's always some leak down loss. And we got an average of 175. So that's pretty much right on what we expected to get. And the next thing is the camshaft. It is a flat tappet camshaft. The camshaft is 470, 470, 221, 231 at 50. It's a Howard's cam. And we'll put the spec sheets in the video as well, so you can see all. It's got a 108 center line. Somebody asked, did we use the Vizard method to determine the camshaft? And Mike Kimball did all the math for me on that, and yes, we did. It conforms to the Vizard theory of camshaft selection. So that's the combination of parts. The intake manifold, it's going in Will's Corvette, so Corvette's always an issue. You don't have a lot of hood clearance, so it's a low-rise intake manifold, vortex style, because these cylinder heads are vortex style, of course. So it's basically a low-rise manifold to fit. The carburetor is a 670 Holley Avenger Street carburetor with vacuum advance. I selected that for Will. It's plenty of carburetor for this engine, and has vacuum secondary, not vacuum, vacuum secondary carburetor, and so it's I think going to be a right fit for him. And we're not gonna fool around with spacers or using Daryl's Dominator carburetor on it or anything like that, because Will wants to leave here with it exactly the way he's going to run it in his Corvette. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to only use this carburetor. We already are going to make some jet changes, and I'll turn it over to Daryl to talk about where we're at with that right now.
Well, we started out normally. Rule of thumb is like to do at least 3 pulls as long as the mixture's safe. and that gets the ring seated in. And after that, you start seeing repeating horsepower. Then you can start tuning. We started with 30 degrees timing just to make sure it's safe, so we didn't want to melt anything. Mixture was good at that time. We bumped the timing up to 36, and that effectively leans the engine out. So we're at the point right now the engine needs a little more jet. So we're gonna put some more jet into it and run it and see what happens. We went from 2,800 to 5,000 for the first 2 pulls. Then the third pull we went up to 5,500 because it was still making power. So we wanted to make sure that we had make full use of the engine RPM range. So we're just in the process of getting her tuned up, and we're going to keep going and see where it happens. All right, so we pulled the carburetor apart because I mentioned earlier that we were a bit too lean, and it had 65 jets in it. So I'm going to go up to 68s and see if we're close there. These are all educated guesses as far as how much we need to raise it up. We don't want to go too much because then, of course, it's going to fall on its face and not make any power at all.
Daryl, what's the thought process behind that? Like how do you make that first step?
The jetting, like which one I choose?
Yeah.
Well, we noticed on the dyno printouts that it's running lean. So it doesn't have enough fuel. So pull the carburetor apart, the flow pull off, and take the jets out and read what number they are. They're all stamped.
Okay.
It's got 65s in it, and normally I like to go up two to 3 sizes depending on how lean it is. And this, after we put timing in, it leaned it out quite a bit. So I want to go up a fairly good jump.
Gotcha.
And the dyno's going to show us. Like if that's too big, then I'll see it on the dyno printouts, and the power will drop off and everything too. So it'll let me know right away if that was a good guess or not. So
are you anticipating that might have to go up again?
Possibly. I think we're probably going to be pretty close, but I mean, again, like I said before, they're all kind of educated guesses just from experience and stuff. So I mean, if it's not right, then we'll take it apart and we'll do it again.
You've only been doing it for 30 years. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I got a fairly good grasp of it, but
Sorry, Daryl.
we'll get her figured out here.
Yeah, there you go. Now you're
The dyno will tell us everything.
Dyno never lies.
No?
Never.
Alright, so we just did a dyno run after we did the jet change, and we're still a tiny little bit lean. The average brake specific fuel consumption is 4.23. I like to see that in the 0.44, 0.45 in there somewhere. So it's still a tiny bit lean, but we did end up with 377 horse and 414 foot-pounds of torque. So we're looking at all the brake specific numbers. We're down in the NASCAR numbers here, which is 3.84. That's still a bit lean. We're going in the 15-to-1 air fuel ratio, so we need to fatten it up some more. We're going to go up from put 68s in it.
Maybe talk about, Daryl, the vacuum secondary, because somebody's going to look at that and say you don't have the balance, right? So tell us why.
The on a normal regular 4-barrel double pumper, this is the front of the carburetor. I separate the carburetors so they're like 2 barrels. So I got fuel A and fuel B, so I can see the amount of fuel going through the front of the carburetor and the amount of fuel in the back of the carburetor. Now, this being a vacuum secondary carburetor, the secondaries are going to open only as much as what the engine requires. So if you see the secondaries on this particular carburetor a lot lower than the front, that's because the secondaries aren't opening all the way. So, but it's not going to lose any power because of that. The vacuum secondaries are set up so that they only open as much as what the engine requires, and we're using 516 CFM. So that's what the engine wants. So that's what we're going to keep doing with it. So we're going to fatten it up some more and do another run.
The only thing to add is it was still making power at 5,500, so we're going to go up a couple hundred RPM this time.
Yeah. We'll raise the upper limit and see if it carries more power up top. Yeah. So once it starts to fall off, then we won't rev it any higher.
From the last pull, We made 377, and Darrell still thinks we're a little bit on the lean side, so we're going to go up a couple more jet sizes. When I brought this engine here, it was a brand new Holley Avenger 670 carburetor, right out of the box. I did not touch it whatsoever or take it apart. The jets that were in it were the ones that it came with. And so this is the second jet change. Go ahead, Darrell.
Yeah, it's unusual that we had to go up that much because usually box stock carburetors are usually built rich. This is a safety factor. And but this one, it seems like it wants more fuel. So we went from 65 to 68, and now I'm going from 68 to 70. Do a 2-jet step because it's doing 1 jet usually isn't enough. So I like to go 2 jets at a time and see, and then we can see a bigger change. It shows up easier on the dyno when you look at it. So we're gonna put some 70s in here and recheck for fuel leaks and everything, and then we're gonna do another run. All right, so we changed the jets again, went from 68s to 70, and now we're in the brake-specific fuel consumption is now in the 420, well, that's 428 there, but we're in the safe range now. So I'm happy with the fuel mixture, and we are gone up. I'll get rid of the screen. We're now at 382.5. We call that 383 on my dyno because I round up because it's cooler. And 416 foot-pounds of torque. So everything is looking really good. We got 100, as much as 105 volumetric efficiency, so we're filling the cylinders 5% more than full, which is good. And here's our graph. Nice flat torque curve. This is going to make that Corvette just fly. So we're going to try putting 1 degree timing in it and see if it likes it. Because I think we're pretty close to being done on this one, but I want to just double check. I'm going to put a 1 degree in it and see if it likes it. If it does, we'll maybe throw 1 more in it until it doesn't like it, and then that'll be it for the day. All right, so we put 2 degrees timing in it because 1 degree is really hard to get. And we lost a little average torque, but we gained average horsepower. I'll show you on here. We were 395 average torque before and 317 average horsepower. So we dropped the torque, it went 391.6, but we went up in horsepower to 322.3. So, and brake specifics look good, air fuel ratio is fine, everything looks really good. So I'm gonna test Alan and see if he can get me that 1 degree. So we might drop it 1 degree to see if we can kind of find a happy medium, because I didn't like that we lost torque. I like we gained horsepower, but losing torque kind of bothers me a little bit. So I want to try and take a little bit of timing out of it and see what it likes. It might get it right in the ballpark where we want horsepower and torque perfect. So we're really, really close. We're just about done.
So we'll try to get you 1 degree. 1 degree is tricky.
Yeah, well, that's why
I might take both degrees back out of it when I do it.
That's why I said I'm testing your skills on that.
But the other thing to notice, we were at 5,700 and we're still climbing. So
yeah,
we're going to add another couple hundred RPM in the next pull and see what happens. So we got to be pretty close. it's already making more power than I estimated. So we're pretty happy with where we're at here. So we'll make that little change and see what happens.
When you're trying to get 1 degree, so divide that little circle into 360 parts. And that's what you're trying to accomplish, is moving only 1 degree without. It's not very much.
foot-pounds of torque. And looks like we got 405 at the top.
Okay, we're going to summarize the last poll. I'm going to let Daryl give you the final numbers. Point we wanted to make, Will wanted this engine to leave here just the way it's going to go in his car. So it's got a 670 Holly Avenger vacuum secondary carburetor on it, and the only changes we made were jetting changes. It's box stock, and for what it's worth, the less things you do to these carburetors, the better. They work pretty good out of the box. And so we didn't try spacers or different size carburetors. This is the way Will's going to drive it. And so I'll let Daryl tell you what he did for the last pull and what kind of numbers he got.
All right, so we raised the operating or the upper test limit to 5,900 because we noticed on our last couple runs that the engine was still making power up at the upper limit. So we raised it up, and we got this last run 422.5, so we call that 423 here, and 405.8 horsepower. So the averages all went up. The brake specific numbers are all perfect. Volumetric efficiency numbers are great. We're done. This thing's perfect. It's gonna rock this Corvette like you wouldn't believe. It's gonna have all kinds of fun with it.
And that's with 36 degrees. We actually came back we were at 38, we came back to 36 and left it there. That's a number I like better for street driving on pump gas. It is a almost 10.5 to 1 compression engine. It's got 175 psi of braking pressure, so that's a pretty nice, safe number to be at, and we're good to go. We're just getting set up for Will to go. He's going to take this home, so we put some match marks. I let him put them on himself on his distributor. So if distributor ever gets bumped or he has to take it out or something, that gives him 36 degrees of timing. And the other thing to note, in the previous video, when I degreed the camshaft, I noted the top dead center mark on the pulley was off by almost 4 degrees. And one of the issues is when you use aftermarket timing markers, okay, and the correct timing mark on the pulley, it could be off a little bit too, but when I degreed it, so when I'm setting the timing, I'm setting at 36 degrees lined up with the 4 degree mark. So if Will sets this sometime in the future, or somebody doesn't know that, that actually would be 40 degrees if you use the 0 mark, but it's actually 36 degrees. And that's how you get messed up. If you don't degree your camshaft, you don't know where it is, and you think you're setting your time, you could be off by 4 degrees. We're going to close off the day and Will Casey's 350 Corvette small block build. And got Will here, of course. He's going to give us some comments from his side. Daryl was the man on the dyno, making the changes and evaluating the results. So I'll let him tell us where he started and where we ended up. So.
Okay, when we started out, we started out at 30 degrees timing. We wanted to make sure that that we had a less timing in there because you want to get jetting right first. So checked it out, ran the carburetor box stock, didn't do any changes to it, ran it, and it was too lean, which is not a common thing because most carburetors are built rich, and this one wasn't, not for this application. So we seen that it was lean, had 65 jets in the primary, so it went up to 68s, ran it again, still too lean from what the dyno shows. So we took those jets out, went up to 70s in the primaries, and got the jetting where we wanted. Then we started fooling with timing, started adding time, went to 36 degrees. It really liked that. We gained horsepower and torque. So we decided to go up, wanted to go 1 degree, couldn't get 1 degree, went 38. So we went 2 degrees higher, and it didn't like that. We gained a little horsepower, but we lost torque, so I didn't really like pushing it because I thought it was maybe detonating, which you can't hear, but the dyno will show it. So all in all, by the time we got jetting and timing done on it, ended up with 406 horsepower and 423 foot-pounds of torque. And with this particular application going in the Corvette with no hood clearance or anything, we couldn't put any spacers on it. We had to have the low-rise intake for that application. So unfortunately, we possibly could have made more horsepower with a taller single plane intake or a taller dual plane air gap or something like that, or spacers on there, but there's no way that that'll fit in this application. So it's ready to rock. Will can take it home, drop it in the car, turn the key, and it should fire right up and work perfect. So
We'll be able to get ice cream in record time.
Okay, well, your turn. Yeah. So yeah.
So, yeah, I just wanted to say thanks to Alan and to Daryl. This has been a great experience. I'm doing this myself, building this car, and I learned a long time ago, when you don't have experience in certain things, hire someone to do that. And it took a while to find who I wanted to trust with this engine build, and spoke to several builders closer to where I live. But one of the troubles is you get a predisposed information and guidance of, well, you have to do this, and some of those things they always line up. So but being here, going through it, it's been fantastic. I think at the start of the project, we wanted to try to be around 350 horsepower.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to take it anyway. And,
yeah, this is the first time I've had anybody apologize for making too much horsepower.
Right. Yeah. So in the end, we hit that number, and definitely had a smile on my face. So it's going to be great. It's going to be great. I'm looking forward to putting it in the car. So thanks, guys.
Okay, well, thanks very much for trusting me with your engine and driving all of this way to get it done. And Will actually came back in October and helped me. He brought the engine right out of the car, helped me disassemble it, and we made a previous video about that when we started. And so here we are today. He's going to take it home, and when his Corvette's ready, put it in. And I'm pretty happy with it. As he's already mentioned, oops, we were supposed to only make 350 horsepower, and we got a little carried away with some of the stuff we did, and so I apologize. We made over 400. So be honest, I did not think that camshaft would make 400 horsepower, but it's always nice to have a surprise in the right direction. So thanks for the business, and we should have Bill Little here today. Based on the last video we made with him, he had a power speed calculator, so Mike picked one up from Summit for me. So I just did the calculation. If Will's Corvette weighs 3,600 pounds with him in it, he is going to run the quarter mile in about 11.5, and he's going to be going 120 miles an hour or something like that, I guess, going across the finish line. So now he's got to hook it up. It's a 4-speed car, so he's going to have a problem with wheel spin.
Yeah.
He's going to have to do some work on that.
Because you're that much
But
torque.
theoretically, the power to weight ratio,
You can do it.
and it's interesting. If I go back to 1973, I had a 350 C modified production car, much bigger camshaft, tunnel ram manifold, 260 Holley carburetors. It ran 1109, and it probably had about 450 horsepower. So That just gives you an idea. We're in the ballpark. Here we are more than 50 years later, right? With basically a street motor that's going to give almost the same performance. So thanks for the business, for trusting me with your engine. It's been a fun experience working with you, Will. I promised the tip of the day, so I'm going to let Will give you the tip of the day to close her off. So.
All right, well, the tip of the day today is make sure that what people are telling you matches up with your own research. So when we started this project, anyone that I talked to about building a new engine, they said, oh, that block's terrible. You can't make power out of that engine. It's only 8.5 a compression ratio. You'll have to go with a 4-bolt main and 1-piece rear main seal and all of these things. And the more I researched into this is that, wait a minute, guys, we had made 2-bolt mains for a long time, making a lot of horsepower and doing a lot of things before a 4-bolt main ever came around. So that actually channeled my search of, I wanted to find someone that took a more practical and actually had the expertise to guide towards the application versus repeating what some guru had told them was the only path. And so that's the tip of the day, is be very selective with who you work with.
Okay, so we're going to follow up with Will. He just sent me a picture a little while ago. He's got his chassis all prepped and painted, ready to start the reassembly. So he's got lots of work to do when he gets home. So we're going to follow up with him in the future as he gets this Corvette together and provide some information about how it looks and how it goes when it gets in the car. So it's been a great day, guys. Thank you very much for helping me out and getting this done. Pretty happy with the results. The other thing to mention for me, making power is great, but when I sell an engine, the dyno is the ultimate torture test. We just made probably 10 hard pulls on this engine, and as long as Will keeps water and oil in it and doesn't over rev it, he can't do anything to it that we haven't already done. It should last forever, and that's why I like the dyno more than anything else. So please like and subscribe, give me your support, and we'll keep trying to think up good videos for you. Thanks for watching Gold's Garage.